How do you know if your nervous system is dysregulated? Now, it may seem like recognizing if we are in a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn state that it would be super simple or really obvious. But for many of us, we just don't see it, especially if we are disconnected from our bodies. The nervous system is the body's way of communicating to us. But if we are perpetually avoiding feeling our feelings, or we don't feel safe to feel our emotions that are uncomfortable, we may actually have no idea that we're dysregulated at all because we're simply not listening. In this episode, we will dive into analyzing our thoughts for clues on whether or not we are in dysregulation. Welcome to the Co-Create podcast, conversations to help you live as the creator of your life. My name is Brooke Snow. I am a transformational teacher, meditation and breathwork coach, and your host. I invite you to subscribe to the Co-Create podcast for weekly inspiration. Here we explore creation principles that help you heal your past, create your future, and love and accept the present moment. Welcome, dear one. I am so grateful that you are here. Today, let's explore how to recognize if you are dysregulated. Friends, I am here to say that I am a recovering overthinker. And I recently heard a very clever phrase that sums up my first 40 years of life. It says, if you're overthinking, then you're under feeling. Let me say that again. If you are overthinking, then you are under feeling. So often, the reason that we overthink and we overanalyze and we stay in our heads about all the things is because we are avoiding feeling the feelings that are in our body. Now, if you told me this a few years ago, I wouldn't have seen the connection. But after spending the past 2 years really working on embodiment, being in my body, being aware of my body and its sensations and emotions, and really feeling, I can say that I now finally feel the difference. We can talk about things like our nervous system being in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And sometimes when we do that, our minds can imagine dysregulation playing out much more dramatically than it typically does. Perhaps we even might imagine dysregulation manifesting at a level 10, where we are having a complete panic attack or an emotional meltdown, or we go into a freeze shutdown response. Or we might imagine that it looks like yelling and screaming or any other outward response. While all of this still classifies as a dysregulated nervous system, and it's much easier to spot, the reality is that many of us are experiencing dysregulation inwardly. We're experiencing it in our thoughts. We're experiencing it inside of our bodies. We may still be high functioning enough to manage our basic responsibilities day to day, but maybe inwardly we're working overtime to suppress what we're feeling in our nervous system. So what I wanted to do today was to take the time to show what some of the thought patterns might look like if you are in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. For example, you can be in a fight state of a nervous system without outwardly fighting with someone. Or you could be in a flight state without outwardly running away. You could be in a freeze state while still moving about. And you can be in fawn by confusing people-pleasing with genuine connection. When I had someone break down what the actual thoughts can sound like while in these states, I was shocked to see how familiar these stress states were. And if you have ever been an overthinker, this is actually one way that knowing what those thoughts are can help us notice what we might not be feeling. So let's get into the heart of this with some examples. Let's look at relationships in particular. This is such a common area of our life that we can go into dysregulation over. And so I want to take a look at each of those states and what do the thoughts sound like if you are in one of those dysregulation states. So let's start with fight. If you're in a fight dysregulation state inside of your nervous system, the thoughts that may come into your mind might sound something like this. If I don't assert myself, I'll lose control. Or they're always wrong and I need to show them why. Or I need to make sure that they know I'm in charge. So remember, if we're overthinking, we're underfeeling. So what we might be underfeeling in this state is the emotion of anger or defensiveness. Now, what about if you're in flight? If you're in flight, some of those defense thoughts as it regards to relationships might sound like this. I'm just going to avoid this conversation altogether. Or what if they leave me? I'm going to pull away first. Or I can't deal with this conflict right now. Remember, overthinking is underfeeling. So the emotion in this situation that we might not be feeling is the fear of confrontation or vulnerability. Let's move into freeze. With relationships, if you're in a freeze state, some of the thoughts that might come in might sound something like this. I don't know what to say or do. I'm just going to shut down. Or I can't process what they're saying. Or maybe if I just stay quiet, this will blow over. Overthinking is under feeling. So the emotion that we may not be wanting to feel in this state is emotional numbness, which is funny because numbness seems like it's not a feeling, like you can't feel. And that right there is a really big clue that we really are trying not to feel something. We're not meant to be numb people. We're not meant to be numb humans. And I'm dwelling on this right now because freeze tends to be a common state that I personally go into as a defense state. And I just shut down. I do go numb, or the other emotional state might be disassociation. So if we're distracting ourselves, we're not wanting to feel, we just feel numb. We are avoiding feeling those feelings. And finally, fawn. In a state of fawn, the thoughts might look like this. I'll just agree with them to keep the peace. Or if I make them happy, they won't leave me. Or my needs don't matter as long as they're okay. Overthinking is underfeeling. So what is it that we're not feeling here? In this fawn state, it's probably something like over-accommodation or self-sacrifice, abandoning yourself at the expense of other people's happiness. So, well, you may not have like this level 10 outward expression of these states in the moment. It's not to say that you aren't dysregulated. So if you can start to spot this type of thinking and you can match it up with fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, you can see it for what it is. And then you can use a nervous system regulation tool to help you move through it and return back to a sense of safety. So I want to take this into another example. So we just talked about relationships. How about we look at examples of what dysregulated thoughts might look like as it relates to our health, or maybe how we feel about our body image. So again, going through this with fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Let's start with fight. Thoughts might sound like this if you're dysregulated in your relationship with your health or your body. I have to push myself harder in workouts to look better. Why can't I just control my eating better? If I don't fight against my flaws, I'm never going to improve. Overthinking is underfeeling. So the emotion here that we may not be allowing ourselves to feel is frustration or aggression towards perceived imperfections in our body. Let's move into flight. Thoughts in flight as it relates to our body might sound like this. I'm just going to avoid looking in the mirror. Or what if I develop a serious health issue? I'll research obsessively to prevent it. Or I can't deal with this right now. I'll just skip the appointment. Overthinking is underfeeling. So what might we be not willing to feel in this situation? The emotion might be anxiety or avoidance regarding our health or appearance. Okay, moving into freeze. Those thoughts might look like, I don't even know where to start with improving my health. Or no matter what I do, nothing changes. Why bother? Or I feel stuck in this body and I can't imagine it being different. Overthinking is underfeeling. So, what are we not feeling here in this freeze state? Likely a helplessness or a paralysis around making changes. And then, how about fawn? In fawn, those thoughts might sound like, if I just follow this influencer's plan, they will approve of me. Or, I need to keep this diet even if it's extreme because others expect me to. Or, I'll prioritize everyone else's needs before focusing on my own health. Overthinking is underfeeling. So the emotion that we are likely suppressing here is seeking external validation or approval over personal well-being. Okay, what do you think about those examples? Do any of these thought patterns feel familiar to you? I know they did to me. Like when I started to see all these examples of what the thoughts can sound like when I'm dysregulated, I began to notice that, oh, I actually feel that way more often than I realize. I'm more dysregulated than I realized. And I used to look at those thought patterns as either truth and I believed them without question, or I looked at them as a limiting belief that I could simply override with an affirmation or a positive thinking mantra. And I will say this again and again. I love mantras. I love affirmations. I can't emphasize enough that to be a creator, we have to include the body. And working from the body first can be so much more efficient. It is a bottom-up approach rather than a top-down approach. With that being said, how well does mind over body work for you? And you've probably heard it said many times in your life, right? Like mind over matter, mind over body. You just got to push your way through. You just have to think the thought that is going to change things. And if you're like me, it can be so much harder. And this requires so much more willpower and endurance that it just doesn't feel sustainable, especially on hard days when those reserves are lower. But when you work from a bottom-up approach, when you work with the body first and then move up into the mind, it is a far better use of energy and resources. So here is your invitation. Take a moment today to notice your thoughts. Are they hinting at fight, flight, freeze, or fawn patterns? And instead of judging them or trying to push them away, simply observe. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward understanding what your nervous system might be asking for. And once you've identified where you are, am I in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? Just try a regulation tool that resonates with you. Breathwork, a walk outside, gentle movement. or even just placing a hand on your heart and taking a few deep breaths can work wonders. The key here is to start small. As always, remember that you are not alone in this journey. We are all learning to listen to our bodies and our emotions in deeper and more compassionate ways. The beauty of this work is that it doesn't just help you heal, it helps you create a life filled with more presence, more connection, and more joy. The more work I have done to feel my feelings and heal my nervous system, the more I'm noticing that my thoughts are calming down. Remember, if you're overthinking, then you're under feeling. So therefore, the reverse is also true. If you're feeling your feelings more, then your mind will obsess less. They are intrinsically connected. The more I allow myself to feel my emotions, the less that I get caught up in my mind, spinning stories or searching for solutions, trying to fix myself. Instead, I can be present and truly enjoy my life. I often reflect on the idea that we may have chosen to come to Earth to learn, to experience, and to have a body. Yet this incredible body often feels like a mystery. And we spend so much of our lives ignoring it or believing that its responses are wrong. When we start to listen to our body's wisdom and intentionally work with our nervous system, we learn to coexist peacefully with this remarkable instrument. For me, shifting from constantly trying to fix myself, which is, again, it's getting caught in the mind. I'm overthinking things. And shifting from constantly trying to fix myself to now focusing on regulating myself has changed my life. Not only is this more effective, but it's also more compassionate. It honors the full range of human emotions and the natural experience of dysregulation. I really want to draw attention to this because the goal here isn't to avoid ever getting activated. Getting activated is a natural and essential part of being human. Activation propels us into action. It alerts us to genuine danger, and it allows us to feel truly alive. However, this is just not a state that we're meant to dwell in indefinitely. Instead, we're meant to sort of dance with it, moving between activation and regulation in a rhythm that nurtures our well-being. Just as nature moves through cycles of expansion and contraction with the ever-changing seasons, with shifting weather patterns, with the rise of the sun and the glow of the moon, we are designed to flow in harmony with these natural rhythms that exist in our own body. Activate, regulate, activate, regulate, activate, regulate. Let's just make sure that we are completing that cycle. Remember, you are a creator. Feel, be, see, say, and do. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. If this resonated with you, I would love to hear about your experience. You can leave a comment on YouTube or share this episode with someone who might benefit from these insights. And if you're ready to experience the nervous system regulation tool of breathwork, I would love to invite you to attend my next live breathwork session. You can check the dates for the next one at brooksnow.com/events or click the link in the show notes. You are a creator. Now go co-create something great.